And before I get started, I have two things to say. Two, please. So please listen to me. Newspapers as a printed artifact are definitely having serious financial trouble. The slides I'm about to show you will illustrate that. This is lecture 2 about current state of newspaper affairs, lecture 2 of the newspaper module. Okay, so we've established that, and you already knew that. You guys already knew that. Newspapers are in trouble. However, even if we were to lose all newspapers, we would still need something to function in that capacity of being a local news outlet, someone to provide local news and be kind of a watchdog on the local government. In many places, there's no local newspaper at all. We call this a news desert. Sometimes there might be a local radio station or maybe a campus newspaper or nothing at all. So for those of you who don't care, I know you don't read print newspapers, but maybe you get all your news off social media or TikTok or whatever. I only know about the Ukraine war because of the memes, right? I heard that. Even if newspapers were to go away, we still need something. So I think it's an important topic, and hopefully I can make this topic interesting to y'all who don't think a lecture on newspapers might be interesting. Okay, second plea is you're saying, okay, the newspaper industry and journalism in general is suffering. Why should I get a journalism degree? It's a waste of time. No, it's not. It's super useful. The skills that you would learn getting a journalism degree or media studies or public relations or advertising, any of the degrees within the school of JMS, any of the skills you would learn are going to be applicable to other jobs. How to gather information, how to collect information, how to make sense and evaluate information. Not all the information you get is going to be reliable. How to turn that into something understandable and then present that information to somebody. Okay, that's super valuable no matter what industry you go into. All right, anyway, that's my plea. Here we go. The composition of a newspaper is roughly, to make a profit, roughly 50% advertising and 50% news editorial. I will talk about what the word editorial means in a moment on the next slide. And remember, we've talked that the purpose of media is to make money and to generate and sell audiences to advertisers. So newspapers create content so that they can put ads in, and 50% advertising, 50% news editorial would be the goal. Some daily newspapers, if they have high circulation, could break even with 25% advertising, and Sunday papers have the most advertising. I think you all know that. Sunday papers come with a big bunch of inserts as well. Sunday is a day when people are home, people have more time to look at ads, people are shopping, so Sunday's a big day. Now, editorial. Okay, this is from August 13th, 2020. The zero is being cut off. An editorial is usually something that has someone's opinion. In this case, it's a man talking about nutria, which is kind of a big rodent, basically a pest in Louisiana, and he's advocating as a way to deal with the pest issue. Why don't we start eating the nutria? Let's make nutria gumbo, for example. Anyway, I think that's a funny kind of editorial. And the editorial pages usually come at the end of the first section of a newspaper. The first section of a newspaper is where they put the hard news, the serious news, crimes, fires, what's going on overseas. At the end of that first section, there's usually 1 or 2 pages of editorials. Okay, so sometimes we mean that, but the term can be confusing. I've already explained what it normally means. However, when people in the industry are talking, or people in academic classes like this one, when we talk about editorial content, many times we also just mean anything that's not advertising, anything that the newspaper itself has to generate. The ads come to them, someone else does the artwork, anything that the newspaper has to generate, whether it's those opinion pages, which are called editorial, but it could also be news and any kind of classified listings, sports score, stock figures, anything like that. So when people talk about, the sometimes like what's the editorial makeup of a paper, they might be meaning this part B, just anything. But then in conversation, many people mean topic A, right? That it's just the editorial. Hopefully I'm making sense. I don't think I'm going to put this on the quiz, but I just wanted to clarify how editorial can be used in different ways. Newspapers used to make a lot of money from printing classified ads. If you wanted a roommate, if you wanted to buy something, find a job, find a pet, sell a car, you'd go down to the newspaper or call them up on the phone. You pay a small fee and they print a certain number of words. It was like, $20 gets you this many words, 50 gets you this many words. That's free money to the newspaper because they don't have to hire a writer or an editor, maybe someone to check for typos, but they don't really have to hire a lot of skilled people to do that. There's no artwork. There's no graphics to it. So newspapers used to make I was going to say a curse word, just say an S ton of money, right? From these, Craigslist killed this, okay? And then other things on the internet like eBay have basically wiped this out. So, within my lifetime, this was a major revenue source for newspapers. It's gone. Now, I've got a couple of charts here showing, I got this from the Pew Research Center. I'm going to put the link in the lecture notes as usual. Total circulation of US daily newspapers. And when you look at it yourself, you could see maybe some specifics. You can see a decline. Sunday is tracked separately than weekday papers. You can see a decline starting, in about 1980, 1990. You have television, you have cable television. Okay. So newspapers are competing with other forms of media. And then when you get the introduction of the internet over on the right, you can see newspaper circulation. This is total daily circulation for the United States. You can see it doing a pretty sharp decline. Okay. Another reason, I don't think this is in the textbook, is traffic. Traffic also caused a decline in newspapers. Many newspapers used to have a morning and an evening edition, a print morning and a print evening edition. And when people weren't plugged in the way they are on social media, maybe you wanted a newspaper twice a day. Maybe there was an update in the afternoon. But with cities getting bigger and bigger, it became too difficult to have the delivery trucks going out in the afternoon. So believe it or not, traffic itself has contributed to the decline of newspapers. Now, this shows unique visitors to a newspaper website. A unique user is something that's unduplicated. If I go to a website 5 times a day, maybe I go to something like CNN or ESPN 5 times a day. I don't, but say I did. They don't want to count me 5 times. They have systems they claim that they can figure out it's just one person. That's called a unique visitor. Anyway, that's getting off track a little bit. The number of unique visitors to newspaper websites is growing. And when we talk about newspapers, increasingly in the industry, when you talk about newspapers, you are talking about online because they have transitioned to the online. But the online form is not doing as well financially to make up for all the losses from the print product. Okay. But yes, there is an increase in newspaper website usage. Um, Advertising and circulation revenue of the newspaper industry. This is the depressing part. Okay. Now, the yellow line is circulation revenue, and that's going up as the percentage of money that's coming from advertising is going down. And look at this massive drop right here, right around the year 2000, and then as the internet gets bigger and bigger and social media comes in, it's just a huge, massive drop in revenue that's going to newspapers. As that's going down, you okay, Nano? You want to, Nano wants me to shut the door. I think my loud lecturing woke up Nano. I just had to shut the door over there. But I'm almost done. I'm about halfway done. Okay, where was I? Advertising revenue has gone down, way down. So newspaper publishers have to charge more for circulation, meaning you have to pay more to actually get access to that newspaper. That circulation revenue is going up, but it's not going up fast enough. And then you have this classic dilemma. If you charge people more to access your product, fewer people might access the product. So it's a tough dilemma. It's not an easy solution to this problem. Here we have top circulation. Wall Street Journal by far has the highest, 679,000 issues in circulation in a day. And then you have the New York Times, and it goes down pretty quickly after that. And we got some local papers that are doing pretty big. Chicago Tribune, well, Chicago's borderline local, national. I would consider LA, Washington, and New York to be national papers. And Tampa Bay Times, look at that. Okay, so you can see that there's a big discrepancy between the Wall Street Journal and even the New York Times and other people. Now I'm going to talk about audits. I think this is a fascinating topic, a really fascinating topic. Kind of makes me laugh, but it's kind of interesting too. Those inserts that come in the paper, I think of them usually with the Sunday newspaper. Go to Walmart or a car or something like that. A discount coupon for mayonnaise or something. Newspapers get paid money to deliver that to you. So newspapers are literally a delivery mechanism for advertising into your home. Okay, they get paid to deliver those, and one of the beauties of home newspaper circulation is you can zone it by zip code. You know that a certain zip code, let's say La Jolla, you're going to have a higher income than Santee. I'm sorry if you live in Santee, that's just the truth. So you might put different, or maybe people who live down in Chula Vista, you want to put different ads in different neighborhoods. So that's kind of a good thing that you could do with newspapers. Now you can do hyper targeting with online stuff, but that's another topic. So what is to prevent newspapers from lying about the number of ads that they deliver? What is to prevent the local newspaper, San Diego Union Tribune, saying to Black Angus Steakhouse, we delivered 2 million of your coupons, when they didn't. They just maybe took 2 million coupons and threw them in the river. Okay, no one has ever done that. I'm not accusing the San Diego paper of doing that, but there's fear of that, and things like that have been done. So believe it or not, there's a company that comes in and verifies all the circulation figures. If the San Diego paper says we print 500,000 or 800,000 copies a day, they come in and verify that. Then that number, once it's verified, advertisers can agree upon it. Nielsen ratings work the same way for television. It is a set of numbers that everyone in the industry, both the media producers and the advertisers, can agree is a set of numbers. The numbers could be wrong, but everyone agrees these are the set of numbers we are going to use, however flawed they might be. Got it? So a circulation audit determines how many copies of a paper or a magazine as well are in circulation. Insert verification is when someone comes by and checks, if the newspaper going to this particular zip code in Claremont Mesa area, if the newspaper going to that zip code was supposed to have 20 different ads, someone goes in and spot checks, are they doing that? If you were to get hired doing that, I think that would be an entry-level job, and you could laugh about it, but you could tell your family, I'm working in publishing. The big circulation scandal, which people still talk about, was in 2004. Newsday, which is a tabloid newspaper. Tabloid means it kind of opens like a book. It's bound in the middle. Newsday was exaggerating its circulation figures so horribly. I mean, it's like comical. They actually were overcharging advertisers and had to pay the money back, and some people went to jail. I think that would be very embarrassing to be in jail. I've never been in jail. Inshallah, I never will be in jail, but like to be in jail, like, what are you in jail for? Grand theft auto, what are you in jail for? I inflated circulation figures of a tabloid newspaper. I laugh, but you don't do this. You will get in trouble if you do this. Now, these are old, these are about 10 years old, but here are some statistics, circulation statistics from the San Diego Union Tribune. And I don't get fixated on the numbers. Don't think you have to write down these numbers, but just look at the sort of basic trends. Sunday is over here is categorized separately than Monday through Friday. And we have a total average circulation as well. And there's all these different editions that they track. And now look at this in particular. I think the stuff over here on the right is really interesting. On the bottom right corner, they calculate readers per copy. They assume that more than one person looks at a newspaper. They assume 2.3. How could you have 0.3 of a person? Old joke, I know, but statistically, if you have enough people, they say 2.3 people look at each copy of a newspaper. With television, they think it's 2.5. Nielsen guesses that for every television, 2.5 people are watching. Some people have big groups, maybe people in a bar, and there's maybe people at home watching by themselves. When you average it all out, 2.5 people watch every television set. And then we have gross ratings point over here on the far right, 178.1. I don't know 100% what that means. I just know that gross rating points are a term that's used across industries so that advertisers can calculate. They can determine, is my advertising money better spent on billboards, newspapers, social media, radio, if we all use the same set of metrics. Like reach, right here, 45%. That means the Sunday paper is reaching 45% of people over the age of 18. Okay, that's what reach means, 45%. And Sunday's a little bit higher than Monday through Friday. And anyway, then there's the total numbers as well. The big takeaway I just want you to get here, that Sunday's the big day. And I think when print papers go away, which could be within a few years, that most of them go away, I think Sunday's going to hang around. Now here, I'm going to put this link in Canvas in the lecture notes for sure, because it's just way too much information. But even calculating how many copies of a newspaper go out and how many issues are sold is difficult because of the internet, right? Because of the internet. So I found this from the American Alliance for Audited Media. And I'm just going to go through quickly, and you can see that, there's different terms. We have a digital replica, we have a non-digital replica. How do you calculate something that's bundled with a print subscription? If the person looks at it online, but they also have a print, how do you calculate them as a reader? What counts as a bundled versus a hybrid subscription? So they're very, very specific. And again, I think this could be a really cool topic to study if you want to get a job, because, maybe it's not sexy to some people, but if you're math inclined, And learning how to calculate the size of the audience is super, super valuable for social media and for online. That's a huge issue. So if you can kind of get the lingo down and get the basics down, I think it's just kind of a really cool niche kind of skill to have. And okay, paywall. All right. Wow, I do have a few slides left. We all know, I think you know what this means. When you try to access something online and they say you got to put in a credit card, we call that a paywall. Paywalls didn't exist for a long time. And for a long time, it was only the Wall Street Journal that had an online paywall. People who read the Wall Street Journal tend to have more money. So it made sense that they had a paywall. If a newspaper doesn't have a paywall, if that's considered free, that is going away. A hard wall is pretty rare. A hard wall is pretty rare. Wall Street Journal, again, to go back to them, is one of the few people that actually can get away with doing a hard wall because their content is so valuable and people are willing to pay for it. Freemium is what a lot of newspapers are doing. More and more newspapers are going to some type of paywall structure, and these last two are the most common types. Freemium is where you get something for free, then you have to pay extra for the additional features. Streaming services work the same way. You can get a couple episodes for free, and then you got to pay more. That's referred to as the freemium model. This is the most common one, a metered paywall, where we'll give you 10 articles for free, 20 articles for free, and then beyond that, you have to pay for it. And I know that you could go in, you guys are smart, you can probably go in, play with the cookies and the cache and come in as a new user. But more and more papers are going to a metered paywall. And I'm very sympathetic to that. I understand that, this is from the textbook, pretty much. I think there is some hope for newspapers in the future. I think we're going to see new forms of news coming out and new hybrid models to try and take advantage of what the internet can do. We're also seeing a lot of newspaper podcasts. I listened to this one from the New York Times called The Daily. I listened to it. It's pretty informative. And you can do advertising on podcasts, so maybe that's the way to make money. And digital profits are increasing. They're not increasing as fast as the profits from the analog print ads going away. They're not increasing that fast, but they are going up. They are going up. So I think maybe that is some sign of optimism. The end. There you go. That's it. Hopefully I did okay.